Going through the course obviously introduces a lot of new concepts to me, having the trading that I'd done in the past very discretional and a very different style of trading. So I've had a lot to get my head around and been really pleased with the response coming back from TradeCoach and Greg in particular in response to questions that I've put through to him. And again, found him very helpful in going through the process and learning a whole new system. For those of you thinking of doing the course, depending where you come from, there's going to be a lot of new information. I certainly dealt with a lot of very different concepts in terms of how to trade, what to look for, and obviously how to then automate and build that process so that you don't have to sit there staring at a screen for hours and hours. Invaluable information I've found not only in what we are learning, but also the way to think as a trader and as a successful trader, and putting the systems in place that will allow you to get into that same mindset and be profitable. I have brought some of my systems with me today, and if you're interested, I'm more than happy to show you my progress in a relatively short space of time having done this course. Hi, I'm Greg. As I said, I'd be happy to show you some of the systems that I've generated since doing the course about 2 months ago. This was the first one that I managed to get through the shredder, and as you can see there, it's got a fairly high % success and only one loss in a row, so I was absolutely thrilled with this one. Okay, this is the second system that I got up and running and eventually got through the shredder. Next step, bigger profit and stop and optimizing the CCI period. Obviously an improvement there that was an encouragement and worth continuing with. Moving on to the next step, just again a couple of slight adjustments to the actual code. Again, a step forward and in the right direction, and then ended up at this point, having listened to Greg talking about going through and liberating your code and just making some changes. So I removed some of the code that I'd had up to this point and ended up with, again, a better system in terms of % success. 3 consecutive losses on this one, but still within the target that we're looking for. Another one of my systems, just using an indicator that I'd never ever seen before, the Arun. Just thought, what the heck, let's have a look at it. And again, managed to come up with something that is usable in the long run. So this was the starting point, using some of the ideas and the Excel systems that Greg's provided through the course. Looking at that information and just making some adjustments as you go. This one's interesting. I was actually thinking ATR as a filter, put on an ADX, not realizing that that's what I'd actually done, and yet stumbled across something that was positive for the overall system. So I continued with that idea. Ended up getting a fairly healthy number of test results through the shredder, which is encouraging. It's nice to know that you're moving in the right direction. It hasn't generated a lot of signals and does tend to have long periods of inactivity, but overall seems to be pretty strong. Thoroughly enjoying the process, and it's heartening and gives you confidence when you can backtest and see results like this. Now obviously I don't expect them necessarily to run that perfectly going forward, but it does give you a sense of confidence that you're moving in the right direction and that you are capable of generating systems that can be profitable over a period of time. One of the things that I always used to try and trade was the gap on a Monday morning, and that was as simple as, if it opens with a gap, just trade to close the gap. Strange thing was though, as a discretionary trader, I never ever managed to generate an ongoing profit with it. Having learnt how to do some coding, I thought, what the heck, let's have a look at the gap and just see whether I was wasting my time or not. And this is what I came up with. Okay, it's not exactly what I was looking at in a discretionary sense, but nevertheless, when you're looking at 80% success and 12 winners in a row and 1 loss in terms of backtesting, okay, maybe there was something to it and it was just my head getting it wrong. But what I found interesting about this particular thought process, or this backtesting process, was that on this currency, when I backtested it and applied a couple of different settings which just refer to the difference in the gap, I had 3 settings that were all profitable and all at a greater than 80% success rate. So you can see we've jumped from 80 to 82 on this slide, and on the 3rd setting it's jumped to 85. So there's obviously something there that you can work with, and if you have an automated system and your head doesn't get in the way, your emotions don't get in the way, then yes, you can potentially generate some profit from it. Okay, this system is interesting to me in a completely different way. As one of the other ones I've already showed you, I battled with it for hours and hours and hours and had a very long day before actually getting to a point where I was successful. Whereas this one, I was away, I'd taken my laptop with me, I had a lot of things going on around me, a lot of interruptions with people walking around, holding conversations, and actually becoming involved in those conversations as well. And yet, I would imagine that over a course of about 4 to 5 hours, if I was to string all my time together, I managed to put this together. This is the starting point of the basic idea, and I was looking at the percent successful down the right-hand column. From there, I ended up on the pound yen. I can't remember why. As I said, I was involved with a lot of distractions during the course of that day, but I settled on the pound yen as to move forward with some fairly encouraging looking graphs. Just found it exciting and something a little different without a fixed profit and stop. Ended up with something that I thought was fairly exciting, if a little bit unnerving, without having an idea of exactly how big a loss or profit it's going to generate. And yet, at an 81% success and 2 losses in a row, is an interesting idea for perhaps when I get a little bit more advanced into this course and the idea of automated trading.